let's get into percents today. Percents is a funny topic. It's one that if you've gotten up to this point in the TTP course, for most people, it's actually not that bad because I think it has a lot to do with translations. And by the time you get to percents, you've done so many different translations that what you're seeing is pretty reasonable. So, it's just one of those things that I think hopefully for most of you isn't terrible. So what I want to do today is get into some medium level percents, some variable percents, and let's see how you guys handle it. Then we can stop a little early for Q&A and see where we're at. So let's start with this question here. I'll give you 2 minutes and then we can chat about it. All right, that's a good one. Yeah, 5%. Okay, so this is just getting everything in terms of the same variable. So we've got P is equal to 5Q, Q is equal to 4Z. Key is that we're looking for Z over P times 100 is equal to what, right? Q is the common variable, so the fact that P is in terms of Q is good. We just have to do the other one. That's Q over 4 is equal to Z. And then you just put them back into the expression. So Q over 4 divided by 5Q times 100. When you flip and multiply, the Q's cancel. We'll show that though. Times 1 over 5Q. And then notice that goes away. It's 1 over 20 times 100. That's 5%. That makes sense, everybody? All right, awesome. All right, so let's do some more similar stuff. But like I said, this is really translation-based. If you can handle these translations, life is pretty good. All right, this is a cool question. Take a look at this. For those that put D, do you realize you have fallen for a trap? I guess there's just one D answer. Because remember, what we're trying to get is Y expressed in terms of X is what percent of Z. So we're talking about Y over Z times 100 equals what, right? For the person who put D, you didn't multiply by 100. That was your issue. Now to set it up, in case you guys are wondering, X percent of Z is just X over 100 times Y, that's equal to Z, right? Now, if you can bring the Y over, this is actually a nice clean way to deal with this. When you have two fractions each equaling each other, you can flip both sides like that. You get 100 over X equal to Y over Z, but then you got to multiply both sides by 100. Sorry, I put the dot in the wrong spot. Times 100 times 100, which is why it ends up being 10,000 over X instead of 100 over X. Now, if it said X is what fraction of, or excuse me, Y expressed in terms of X is what fraction of Z, then you would have been right. D would have been the correct answer. Does that make sense, everybody? All right, 100's fine, I agree. So the first part is pretty easy. 100 times 1.05 gives you 105, right? Now, the issue with the next, where you guys fell for the trap, it said 200% greater, not 200% of. 200% greater means 2 plus 1, which is 3, and that's where you get the 315. Just as you wouldn't have multiplied 5% greater, you wouldn't have done 0.05. You added a 1 to it. You got to add a 1 to the decimal version of 200%. So keep that in mind when looking and dealing with a percent that's greater than 100%, or even 100% or greater. But think about it, 100% increase, you wouldn't multiply by 1. You'd obviously multiply by 2, because that wouldn't make sense. It would have just stayed the same. So anyway, something to keep in mind, that's the trap you guys fell for. 315 is the answer. GMAT knows that this is a particular trap. Yeah, so you guys got this good. So this is percent change. Remember, percent change is new minus old divided by old times 100. key here is just getting everything in terms of the same variable. And all those variables are going to drop. So when you look at statement 1, and we can plug in the variables, we have X dollars, then it was Y dollars, so the new is Y. So we know Y minus X over X is what we're looking for. Even if you plug this in, it's still not enough because you don't know what X is. So statement 1 is out. When you look at statement 2, though, you can, to make life easier, just bring the 3 over. 3X is equal to Y. Plug that in. 3X minus X over X. And then 2X over X. I mean, you don't even have to take it this far. You see everything cancels and you see it works. So statement 2 is enough information. It ends up being 200% if you do it all the way out. And the key was just that you got everything in terms of the same variable. Now, do you guys remember the lesson in ratios where we say what you need to get a ratio? I've done those questions here. One of them, it's about the wine, and then there's red wine and white wine, and there's revenue. And we have 2 different DS questions. One of the statements has some addition in it. The other one has, no, not steak and fish. It's red wine and white wine. It's in ratios. You may not remember it. We've done it before. Well, you know what? Let's take a detour here. Let me just do it with you guys. Because I want you to see, and I say this when we do it, but I'm guessing it doesn't. It as well that the same stuff you're dealing with ratios, you're also dealing with percents and fractions. It's all the same stuff. So let me just get the document open. Because if you guys can look out for this stuff, like, you probably could have answered this question even quicker if in fact you were looking out for something like this. But first we're going to do this one, and I want to kind of prove a point. No, I wouldn't say these questions are for beginners. This is just me doing a topic and doing random questions. They're not the hardest questions in the world, but they're definitely not for someone just starting off with their GMAT. So anyway, here's a DS question here. You're going to see my point in a second. Work this out. Put your answer in the chat box. I'm going to give you one more. So you guys can kind of see the differences, and then I want to compare it to the other question that we were dealing with. Take a look at this for now, and then we'll talk about it. I want to give you one other question. It is E, but before we talk about this and then relate it back to the percent change question, I just want you guys to do this one here. And then we can talk about all 3, and we'll end on those questions. Okay, so this one is C, and we don't have to go through this fully, but I want to show everyone the difference here. So, of course, we're dealing with red wine and white wine, and we're dealing with revenue. Talking about quantities and prices, right? So, notice we have a relationship with multiplication here for the price. And notice we have a relationship with multiplication here with the quantity. What that means is when this is all said and done, the variables that are there are going to cancel out. And you're going to be left with the ratio you need. The reason why here that's not the case is because although we have multiplication here, in relation to the quantity, the price here, notice it's 50 more. That's some version of addition or subtraction, or however you want to, classify it. That's going to make it so the variables don't drop. And then, so that's why the answer is here, is E. And then when you go back even further, notice here we have a multiplication relationship between X and Y, when we plug in, as we showed down here, these variables cancel. And then you're left with your percent change. Again, notice up here, there's a relationship between X and Y, which is subtraction, addition, and the variables don't drop. So I want you guys to be able to see how similar all of these questions are. And as you go through the percents chapter and the ratios chapter, just look at the similarities of these relationships in data efficiency and when you're doing official questions as well. So yeah, it's pretty cool because once you know how to do it for one set of questions, you know how to do it for all of them. You just have to understand that the relationship exists. So anyway, we can stop on these questions here. You guys have any questions for me about your studying, target test prep, etc.? Yeah. And remember, these questions are in the TTP course, so you can always go to target test prep to look at the full solution. Any questions outside of these guys here? These sessions are usually weekly. Sometimes we skip a week, but about every week. Any other questions? A couple minutes. Yeah, different topics, exactly. Topics that I kind of choose. We are working on getting verbal sessions going. Not at the moment. We don't have a date for those. But our plan is to try to get some going. All right. Well, this was good, everybody. Yeah, it's both increase and decrease. So thanks for coming, everybody. Hope you learned a thing or two. And yeah, more than likely, I'll be back here next week, I think doing stats. So yeah, good work. Keep it up. If you need anything, we're around. Just reach out and have a safe, healthy week, and we'll all talk soon. Thanks, everybody.